So we've decided it's time to travel around Australia and want to know how much it's going to cost. G'day, I'm Brett, and in this video I'm going to run down all my costs for my 2015 trip around Australia, which lasted 304 days or 10 months, travelling solo, just me in this four-wheel drive, doing a half lap of Australia, skipping Western Australia. So I break down each of the areas which were the main consumers of money, which were fuel, accommodation, food, spending money, and then vehicle repairs and maintenance. Now my four-wheel drive was completely self-sufficient for sleeping, cooking, and food and water storage. Now all these prices are in Australian dollars. So fuel technically came in as the most expensive. Now my car's a diesel, and I consumed 3,300 litres of diesel and travelled nearly 30,000 kilometres. The price came in at $4,587 for fuel. Now you'll find fuel varies quite widely once you leave the metropolitan areas, and the prices I had were $1.19 per litre in New South Wales as the cheapest, and $2.09 per litre in Kings Canyon, Northern Territory. Now I've got plenty of fuel range on this car, with 185 litre worth of tanks, so I can fill up cheaply in town and then head out and save fuel rather than refilling in some of the more remoter fuel stations. Now before you head out, you need to work out your fuel consumption for your vehicle when fully loaded. Now my car unloaded does about 10 kilometres per litre, but when fully loaded it gets down to 8 kilometres per litre. So that will help you work out how many kilometres you want to travel around Australia, work out the estimate and see how much it's going to cost you for fuel, just doing a basic calculation. Accommodation is the next expensive thing you'll find. Now I typically camped out in national parks and free camped as much as possible. I prefer to spend most of my time travelling Australia in nature rather than doing lots of coastal places and cities, which don't really appeal to me. So most of it was in free camps, national parks or caravan parks, and only stayed in backpacker hostels a couple of times. I never stayed in motels or hotels. So national park campground fees can range quite widely throughout the states and territories, and they would range from being free up to $53.30 per night, which was at Wilson's Promontory in Victoria as the most expensive place. But the typical fee is probably around $10 on average per night. Though again, this was in 2015, and I've noticed many parks have raised their prices since. It's now 2018. Caravan parks range from $15 to $40, with around $30 the average. Now I typically had unpowered sites because I'm fully self-sufficient with solar for running all my appliances, with the occasional top up with power. But again, it can vary quite widely. Some parks are actually a little bit cheaper, down at $10 per night, but they're probably a bit more run down. The total accommodation cost came in at $3,991. Food is the next expensive. Now, I cooked the majority of my own meals on the back door here with my little gas stove, and occasionally using caravan park kitchens. The meals I eat were pretty simple: meat, veggies, fruit, rice, pasta, noodles, tacos. I rarely ever ate out at restaurants, maybe a couple of times, or I'd buy a pie for lunch. But generally I made all my own meals to save money. I also do not drink alcohol, soft drink, coffee, ready drink tea. Don't drink really fruit drinks either. I drink water. So right there I've probably saved $2,000 or more in money just by not consuming all those junk drinks. So that may be something you'll need to consider, how important it is whether you consume those things or whether you want to travel more kilometres in more time. Now I typically purchase between 1 to 2 weeks of food and keep it on board, so that way I could buy up cheaply in the bigger towns, and it would save me having to spend money on more expensive little towns. But food was, $3,214. Spending money was the next big thing. This is spending money for tours, entry fees, public transport, souvenirs, other consumables like batteries and personal hygiene products, and any other knickknacks that I found. This came in at $4,231. So I typically might do a few boat tours, entry fees into art galleries, things like that. But I wasn't very big on major things like ballooning or whitewater rafting or whatever other adventure sports. But if you're into that, then you'll have to factor that into the cost, all the different experiences you want to try. Now, technically speaking, my car was actually the most expensive at $8,630, but that was only due to a couple of major mechanical issues which appeared, despite having already spent many thousands having those replaced before the trip, which was a major setback for my funds. But the typical cost without those major issues was $2,930 just for general maintenance. Every 5,000 kilometers I'd have a car serviced, change the oils, filters, and a general check over to make sure it's still going, because it is taking a lot of beating from rough corrugated tracks, which rattle things around. So the total approximate cost for 304 days with one man traveling solo around Australia, minus the major vehicle repairs, was $18,955. This works out around $62 per day, which I think is fairly reasonable to do that and travel that long. Now, this wasn't 2015, like I said, and it's now 2018, and I've already noticed some of these are becoming more expensive already due to inflation in global markets. So I will do a new video in a year or two's time when this current trip is finished for my 2018 update. Visit my website, roamingtheoutback.com, for the companion article to this video, listing all my costs for my 10-month trip around Australia. Now, to get the initial estimates, I recommend the Expedition Australia free Big Lap budget spreadsheet, which you can download on the site called Expedition Australia. Just Google it, it'll come up, and there should be a page there. You can enter your name and email and get the free spreadsheet. I found that was very useful in the beginning for getting the basics going. But I did find once I hit the road that the estimates were nearly $1,000 more per month than what I was actually spending, because I didn't quite have the experience yet to enter good numbers. But at least you'll have an excess of money and allow you to travel a bit longer than what you otherwise would have been able to do. So I hope that helps give you a bit of an idea of what it would cost. For one man, nearly $19,000 for 10 months. That's nearly a year of traveling for like half of someone's annual wage, basically. Now, as far as budgeting goes and saving money for your trip, I saved at least a good 3 years. It took me 3 years of preparation to get my car complete, ready to travel. I'd recommend setting up a secondary bank account and having money auto deducted from your pay each week and sent to that secondary account, which you do not touch unless it's something specific for purchasing for the trip. And that will help you a lot. Now, you also need to work out some of the expenses that you consume each day, like coffee, alcohol, cigarettes, and work out how important those things are to you compared to traveling Australia. If your passion is to travel and see Australia, then you may want to consider reducing or giving up some of those addictions or desires each day. Like I said, I don't drink alcohol, coffee, or soft drinks. Right there, $4 a cup of coffee per day, that works out, probably over $1,000 or more. That's $1,460 a year. That's a whole month of travel money that I just saved for not drinking coffee. One coffee a day at $4. And that's a cheap coffee, I'm sure. I'm sure that many people spend a lot more than that on a nice cup of coffee. Not saying you do, but work out, if your budgets are limited, what's more important, having a coffee a day or seeing Australia for a whole entire month? As well as that, find other areas you can sell off some of your old possessions. I had a couple of big sales on eBay and online on Gumtree, selling off my old possessions I no longer used. I went through virtually everything, all my old DVDs, gone. Some Johnny Cash memorabilia I'd collected over the years, I no longer had value to me. I sold them, got some money in, any old car stuff. Even sold my 1965 Morris Mini that I had since I was 15. I no longer drove it because I had this, so I had to sell it. But that gave me another, 4 or 5 grand of travel money. So look around and just sell off things that no longer really have meaning in your life and that are just empty clutter. And you'll be amazed at how much people are actually prepared to spend or pay for some of your junk. I was amazed, things I was going to throw away. I put them on eBay, still got 40 or 50 bucks for them. It's incredible. So I hope that gives you an idea of what it's going to cost to travel solo around Australia. So stay tuned for my 2018 update and subscribe to follow me on my current travels around Australia, visiting Australian national parks, doing bushwalks and 4x4 tracks. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to help support the creation of more videos, please consider becoming a patron. Thanks for watching.